So this video is being put together to just give you just a little bit more practice at home before coming to the hands-on threading workshop. It's really great to get you into the swing of practicing on your friends, family, or even clients if you have some. So let's go ahead and I'll show you the techniques. We'll first start with the self. And that's really great when you want to practice on yourself. And some estheticians, cosmetologists, they do go ahead and use this technique when they're starting because they just find that it's just a little bit more easy to practice with. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how you would loop the thread and do the self technique. To show you the self technique, what's so good about the self technique is that you can practice this on yourself, and a lot of cosmetologists, they tend to like to at least start by using this technique. It's a lot less complicated, or should I say it's not as difficult to grasp, and you actually get the concept of hair removal really quickly once you practice using the self technique. And then after that we'll look at other methods, and they just tend to be more beneficial when you are repetitively threading. So what I do is, again, this is an estimate, but it has tended to work for me and most people that I train. I take just over the shoulder to just over the shoulder. That's a great length because it tends to work in sync with your body and I guess the distance that you would need. Again, this is case by case, so you'll have to find a loop amount that works good for you, but generally over just past the shoulder is a really good estimate for how long you'd want your thread to be. You could actually go on to cut hair, but I'm just going to go ahead and use my teeth. Remember, it's just thread, it's so easy to break. So then what you'll want to do is you want to actually tie a knot at the end of that thread. So let's go ahead and do that, tying that knot. Some people actually tie the knots in advance. They do that just because some people aren't as quick at actually getting that knot done, and it just saves time, so they'll have them all lined up before the client. As you saw, I just twisted it. You'll find your own way of being able to make that knot, but definitely practice that. Practice that before the workshop, because obviously the easier it is for you to do those things, to create your loop, to know the length that you want, the more time that we're focusing really on the brow artistry and getting into the shaping. So as you see, by creating that knot, we're actually going to have a nice, you can create like a nice rectangular form. So we're going to twist 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that so you can see. Remember, we're creating like a nice rectangular form, okay, and then we're going to twist. And to do that, you just simply take these 2 fingers in the middle, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I strongly encourage you to practice that with the fingers. Remember, that's the 2 fingers. I use my right because I'm right-handed. Of course, if you're left-handed, I'll try and do it the other way. You would do it the other way. So you take those fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What you really want to do is just get into the practice of creating a scissor-like effect. Bear in mind that as you open, so as you use your fingers to enlarge this area, this side gets smaller, and likewise, as you use your fingers to enlarge this area, this side gets smaller. The side that gets smaller is actually acting as your scissor. Now that scissor is what's actually primarily going to be the culprit for hair removal. So if you think of it like that, it just makes so much more sense. It also means that we'll spend less time being infatuated by learning how to let the thread go up and down, and you should already, by the time you're at the workshop, have a good understanding, a good practice, and a good grasp of this concept already. You want to make it so that it's comfortable for you. Again, one thing I would strongly suggest is that you really mentally acknowledge that this area that gets smaller is going to be responsible for the hair removal. The more comfortable you are with following this up and down routine, it's going to make it simple for you when we're practicing on your model. So the second technique I'm going to show you is the neck technique. It's also commonly known as the Iranian technique. So what you want to do is nice and firmly take the thread between your finger and your thumb, and then you're going to have your spooler thread in the other hand. Now what I do is I just create a knot. Again, go ahead and practice as much as you can at home, in your salon, just getting a really nice loop. You obviously don't want to pull too much, because the thing with thread, although it's delicate and some cases it's 100% cotton mixed with some nylon, it can also serve to be extremely what would be the right word? It can actually cut your skin. Let's be quite frank. It can cause great damage. So there are cosmetologists who are practicing who have cuts around their necks and cuts on their fingers. And I'm not saying that to alarm you, but this is why it's so essential that right now you're practicing the resistance at home and beforehand, so that you're not having to kind of figure out what's going to hurt your skin or cause pain. The more you get to know exactly how far you can pull without causing irritation around your neck, the better. So just like everything, practice is going to make perfect. You definitely want the thread to be firm, okay? So you don't want to have it like loose like this, because when it's loose, you're not going to actually be able to control your thread. So you saw I created that loop, and then nice and firmly. So that means that it's not, there's no slack. Then go ahead, take your hands, and just the same way in the self technique, we use the 2 fingers to create that loop. We're going to go ahead and use the 2 fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm going to actually do that 6 times, and then I'm going to use the 4 fingers and the thumb. Right, so as you can see, the thread is around my neck. The same concept as the self. We are literally just going back and forth. So please practice this. Practice this till you feel content, you feel comfortable. I don't really want to see you all over the place like this. By the time you come to the workshop, I need to see that you're able to pull the thread and have a really nice control, a nice amount of control. In terms of the spool, how you hold it, I tend to take the spool and put it in the palm of my hand, and then I close it. I then tend to take my thumb and finger to just create more support. So can you see, it's like I have a fist, and then I go back and forth. I do believe that with all type of artistry, one size does not always fit all. So go ahead, take my technique with the spool, but if you find another technique works better for you, just go ahead and do that, because the main thing that we really want here is control. I've worked in many places with many different brow artists, and whether it's threading, whether it's tweezing or waxing, you're going to have your own style. That's first and foremost with everything. But I do believe that this will cause the least amount of irritation to your fingers. Having a good command on and control of the thread is what's going to help you to avoid cutting your client's skin and also cutting your skin. I do not have to wear bands on my fingers or any type of any type of rubber, just because I personally believe that the technique I use is soft and gentle enough for the esthetician, cosmetologist, as well as the client. So I'm really big on not cutting the skin, not being too aggressive, but also being firm enough so that you're able to remove hairs even if they're ingrown under the skin. So it really is technique. Our last technique is going to be the mouth technique. You're probably all very familiar with seeing this, and it's also known as the Indian technique. You will use your finger and your thumb to hold on the right side if you're right-handed, and you could do it on the opposite side if you're left-handed. Okay, just the same way with the neck technique, how I showed you how I hold my thread, again taking it in your palm, closing it, then you would just bite. Some people use their front teeth. I find that for me, because I don't have that much of a bite, meaning that the two teeth do not touch each other, I get a better result using the back teeth. So you can just go ahead, and you want to just be able to, when you clench down on the thread, just make sure that it's firm. Okay, and that's pretty much the biggest key. I'm just going to loosen that. That's the biggest key, is just making sure that you have a great firmness to your thread while it's in your mouth, and then also equally it should be firm with the fingers. So we're going to go ahead and do our looping again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm going to, on the 6th time, go ahead and put my fingers in. You'll notice that I am moving my head, and the head is going back and forth. Now, why is that? And if you think about it, the reason for that is that when you move your head back, it actually pulls the thread back. So your head alone, even if you're not moving your fingers, will actually move the, will make the loop smaller. So what we're going to do is, once we're moving our head back, we're also going to use the fingers, just like we did in the self technique, to open it. So in essence, the head is actually now making the loop small, and then the fingers, you're only using the fingers to make the loop large again, preparing it to remove the hair. So pulling the hair back, we're making the loop small, and the loop again is responsible for the hair removal. Just exactly the same principle as the self technique. Just using the fingers to open the thread again. If you find that you lose the firmness, go ahead and just retighten. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On my 6th time, I put my fingers in, and then I'm opening. Threading is an art. A lot of people who excel in it have been doing it for years, or they grew up doing it. So to say that you're going to be a master in 4 hours is totally, if not literally, let's say impossible. So you are going to have to practice that. I encourage you to constantly practice your method with your customers. Again, excuse me, if you have them, you want to practice it. If you're in school, the more practice, the better. Now, why it's so great coming to my workshop is because when you have done your part and you have practiced, You are then going to come to my workshop and have key questions such as, well, Samantha, why exactly am I not able to pull up hairs if they're curly, for example? Or, Samantha, I seem to have a lot of problem with working on the hairs or the eyebrows with men. Their hair just seems to be quite thick. How do I go ahead and remove their hair without cutting myself? And you might have questions like, Samantha, I really find that when I work on maturer skin, the skin is so thin and delicate, I'm really afraid that I'm going to cut them. That's exactly why I have my hands-on workshops, because I really like to work with creating brow artists. And to do that, you have to be able to work on all types of eyebrows. That's where the fun begins. That's where I'm really excited to get hands-on with you, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you and for us to make excellent brow artists out of you. Thanks for watching.